Welcome back, friends, to Terraverse TV. This is John Altarelli, your host, and today we're going to have a little segment on some debate around stolen valor with Tim Walz and JD Vance. That's something that's military people, former military people like myself, we take this stuff very seriously. I want to sort of analyze what was said on both sides and my take on it. If you like the content, again, as I tell you every time, please subscribe, share, like, hit the bell for updates. We keep trying to bring you content that is relevant, hopefully try to bring an unbiased point of view, and also to try to get to the truth here. The news media and what's going on in this political campaign is really troubling to me. I can't believe that we've come to this level of discourse such that we can't even talk about basic facts, or we can't have any kind of conversation without someone attacking so vitriolically that it's almost embarrassing. And I will come back. This segment's going to be just on this stolen valor. We're going to come back and talk about the Elon Musk, Donald Trump Twitter interview, which I watched the entire thing, and I have a lot to say about that. We'll do that in another segment. One last thing before we get started. You see I'm wearing my Guardian Revival shirt again. It's one of my favorite charities. They help first responders and military veterans with PTSD and other issues, try to prevent suicides, and it's a great organization. I work with many of them, but this one in particular is close to me. They're having an event on September 14th. I'll put a link down there for some of our guests. If they'd like to participate, that would be great. They can come meet me in person. Not that matters, but you can certainly meet my friends that are Navy SEALs. They're a lot more interesting than I am. It's going to be a really great event and something not to be missed. So if you're interested, you'll see the link. All the description is down in the link. And you can support Guardian Revival or become a part of the wave of people who are trying to help our veterans and our first responders. So thank you very much for that. Please comment on this segment. If you have anything to say, please bring it on. We'd like to hear from you. Please be civil. Try to keep this civil. That's what we're here for. We're not here to bash each other, hate each other. We're trying to unite rather than divide. So I want to play a little clip from you where JD Vance was being interviewed on CNN about his attack on Tim Walz's military record. So, by the way, as always, I have Jenna, my producer, our producer actually, back in the background doing all the hard work here. She's going to put the clip up. And, we may even ask her to chime in because everyone seems to love her perspective as well. Okay, Jenna, please, let's run the clip. Thanks.
I carried in war. I will say that the Harris-Walz campaign did say that the governor misspoke there.
Sure.
Do you accept that?
He misspoke. Another word is that he lied about it, and he didn't correct the record for 15 years until he was put under political pressure because I called it out, Dana. Whatever you want to call it, a misspeaking or a lie, I think Tim Walz should have to correct the record. Now, you pointed out a soldier who defended his service. There have been a number of soldiers who served with Tim Walz who have criticized him on the exact same grounds that I have, because it's not right to misstate or to embellish what you've done, and I think that's what he did.
And on the question of when he left the National Guard, he filed his election paperwork February 10th, 2005. That was a month before the National Guard even announced that it was possible that they would deploy to Iraq, and it ended up being 2 months. He retired 2 months before they actually...
On CNN last night, Dana, one of the people who was actually in charge said they knew they were going to deploy to Iraq in February of 2004, fall of 2004. So he knew he was going to Iraq. He decided to quit, to retire, whatever word you want.
Okay, let's cut it there. I have enough. I'll explain the three issues that I think were for discussion with Tim Walz's military record. First of all, he served 24 years honorably in the service. He was Army National Guard. He never deployed to the Middle East, but that's not relevant, really. Frankly, he was in for 24 years. He could have deployed other places. He may have deployed other places, but he was prior to the deployment that his unit went on in 2006. Apparently, he retired right before his unit deployed. There's a lot of debate among people who knew him, people who were in the unit, and others that he did it because he didn't want to go. But that may not be the truth. He actually started to run for Congress right after he retired, and it very well could have been that he decided to retire because he wanted to run for Congress. So I don't know. I'm not going to speculate what was in his mind. And frankly, I wouldn't be bothered if the fact is after 24 years he decided he wanted to retire regardless of whether he was being asked to go or not. And I don't think he was afraid. I would be shocked that he would be afraid to deploy. He was a very senior enlisted officer, and therefore he was unlikely to see frontline engagement in any event. So I don't think he was worried about getting killed. So I think it's a little bit disingenuous for JD or any other person to sort of take issue with the fact that he retired after 24 years just because his unit was going to be deployed. He had plenty of reasons to do so after 24 years. So that's the first thing. So I think that one should be taken out of the discussion completely because I don't think anyone can know other than Tim Walz as to why he retired and whether it was for fear of being deployed, which frankly I'm a little bit suspect on. And I think that's just a wrong thing for people to speculate on. Even though I know some people in his unit sort of said, well, he knew about it, he said he was going to go. And I mean, to me, that's all, for all I know, it could be people who just didn't like him, who knows. But it's not relevant. It's his decision, and there's nothing wrong with it. And he did not avoid the draft like some other people. Many of our current, past presidents, current presidents, none of those people served. They all were draft aged people during the wars, and they didn't serve. So I have a lot less respect for them. Now whether that Donald Trump had a real, medical issue or not, or Joe Biden had the proper deferrals or not, or Clinton, and I can go on and on and on with all the different people who didn't serve, who should have served, is another issue. But we can deal with that at some point. I'm going to deal just with JD Vance's attack on Tim Walz. Now, I'm going to chip over to JD Vance's record. He was 4 years in the Marines after high school, enlisted. Then he went to college, did his college undergraduate in 2 years, and then he went to law school. Interestingly enough, I have almost exactly the same career path that JD did. I went in the Air Force after high school. I was in for 6 years. I went to college after that, did my undergraduate in 2 years, and then I went to Cornell Law School. So JD and I share a similar background, both coming from very poor families and lucky enough to get to an Ivy League school and to have a successful career thereafter. So I have no issue with Mr. Vance. He did whatever any person in America should and could do if they had the initiative. He worked very hard. I know how hard I worked, so I have no issue with that. And the fact that he did serve his time, and he in fact did serve in Iraq, is commendable, and I give him a lot of credit for that. And the other thing is, I don't think he misrepresented his record because people say, well, he was a combat correspondent, he really didn't see action. Sure, he may not have. I don't know if his true title is combat correspondent or something like that, but clearly when you're attached to a combat unit as a correspondent, you are in the zone of fire. You get killed. There's been over 137 correspondents have been killed over the years. It is a dangerous job for anyone, whether you're a truck driver, whether you're a cook, whether you're a maintenance person. If you're in the theater, you're at risk, and those people, in my view, and all veterans will tell you this, particularly veterans like myself who didn't go in theater, I was in between the wars, we have really more respect for those people because they really were at risk. Their lives were put at risk. Not every military person is in that situation. However, all military stick together because it's all of us. It's a unit. It takes an entire military to supply, to support, to deal with getting ammunition and food and all that these troops need. And I can tell you right now, if you ever were in conflict, and you can talk to the people that were, they love the fact that there's a bunch of support people over there taking care of them when they get sick, when they need to get medevac, when they need just the food and a place to sleep and safe. They don't bash the non-combatant military people who are there as a support role. And we never do that as military. We stick together. Everyone had their role. Some people paid more of a price, there's no doubt, and we have a tremendous amount of respect for them. And amongst the military people, we stick together and we make sure we let them know the people who did combat are a special breed. They took an extra risk, and they deserve more. So JD Vance never He never embellished his record, thank goodness. People are bashing him for it, or trying to say he's some kid that went to Yale, rich kid. That is so untrue. It's ridiculous to even hear that. People should be thrilled that someone came from his background, worked his way through college, and did it in 2 years, by the way, which I did. It's no easy feat to do a college degree in 2 years. You have to work day and night, and I worked during college, and so did he. So I know what that's like, and that takes a lot of effort. But people who've been in the military, typically, it's not that hard, and it wasn't probably hard for him. It wasn't hard for me because after being in the military, college was kind of a breeze. And then to go to Yale Law School, I mean, that was no easy feat. That's the hardest law school to get in. We all know that. It's very difficult, and he's one of the elite. I give him a lot of credit for that. What I don't like, though, is the fact that he took on another military person, I think, unfairly. He should not have gone after Tim Walz on his stolen valor. Now, there's 3 things that he did, Tim Walz, that I say were not quite accurate, and I don't know if they rise to the level of stolen valor in my mind. One thing he said in some kind of speech where he was advocating against gun violence and trying to restrict AR-15s, I believe, where he said, we don't need weapons of war. I carried weapons of war in war, or whatever, something along those lines, where he sort of implicated that he suggested that he had actually carried, he was in war, okay, and he wasn't, and it's clear that he wasn't, and it's kind of a minor thing. Although I got to tell you, in the military community, it's more than a minor thing. We don't like people misrepresenting their records. It's a very big issue these days, particularly people trying to make believe they're Navy SEALs or they served in Vietnam or served in Iraq, and they never did, and they weren't, some of them not even in the military. So it's really bad to disrespect the people who did serve with people faking that they did. And I think that was a bad call on Tim Walz's part. I don't know that rises to the level of stolen valor in my book. And the fact that he never corrected it for 14, 15 years, well, he never got called on it until he runs for office. And then, all these little things start to come up, and now you got to deal with it. So, of course, he's disavowed it, but, he did say it. So it's definitely not a truth. You want to call it a lie, you want to call it a misstatement. People can call it all. In the legal field, when it's a misstatement, it's the same as a lie. It's a falsehood. You could go to jail for misstatements if they're fraud. You can lose a lot of stuff if you become guilty of a misstatement or even an omission. Frankly, under the law and securities law, it's not just a misstatement. If you forget or omit to say something that's material to the understanding of what you're saying, that in itself is a lie. So yeah, I think it's a lie. I don't think it's a big lie, and I don't think I would make such a big deal out of it. That's the first one. The second one is about his rank when he retired. I think he said he was a command major sergeant, the highest ranking military ever to serve in Congress. And the fact of the matter was he was not. He had earned the rank or the right to put the rank on, but he didn't complete the requirements to actually be in the rank. I think it required some 400 and some odd hours of training and other stuff that he had to have in order to actually be in that rank. And so when he retired, because he retired before he had finished the work, they actually retired him as just a master sergeant or something, whatever the grade is right below that. I'm from the Air Force, so I would say it would have been chief master sergeant or it would have been senior master sergeant, something like that. So it would have been more accurate to say that he had achieved the rank of command master sergeant, but never actually wore it, or even if he had worn it, he actually didn't meet the requirements, and therefore he retired as the one rank below that. So that's another misstatement that he used quite a bit in his political career as touting who he was. Again, it's not accurate, and military guys would be a little bit persnickety about that. I kind of would. I would be not happy if people did that. I think you need to be real careful about your record, and military people are pretty clear about that. You don't want to overstate what you did, because for the people who did the work or who had those ranks or who served in combat, who died in combat, we owe them the respect not to embellish other people's records to sort of take away the value of what these other people have done. So I'm not a fan of it. Most military people don't like it. I don't think this one came up to the level, again, not good. I would make a big correction. I think he's now has no choice but to correct that because all the records have come out. It's sort of silly, by the way, in the military to do this stuff because your records are available for the most part, and we can find these things out. So I don't know why military people lie about their track record because it's all available and it's going to come out. So it's sort of strange, but I guess in politics it doesn't matter. Lying is part of the, the daily routine. And the third thing was, so he had his rank, we had whether he was in combat, and then the third thing we already talked about was whether or not he retired to avoid going to Iraq, which I think that one is the least credible of the attacks on him because no one really knows why he did it but him. And frankly, he was entitled to do so. There's no reason that we should have any issue with that. He wasn't probably going to be in combat anyway, so it's not like he avoided getting killed. It's different if he was a enlisted guy who was going to be on patrol. He was not. So I'm skeptical of that argument. So all in all, I would say JD Vance, I mean, I think you're a great guy in terms of your person. I don't know enough about your policies yet to decide whether I think you're going to be a great vice president. I will listen to you. I think you're very articulate. I think you're one of the better speakers so far as I've been watching the campaign unfold. I think you're one of the only people that could actually speak in full sentences and paragraphs. And everyone else seems to be struggling, including Donald Trump. He doesn't speak very well. Kamala Harris, I can't understand a word she's saying. And Joe, as you know, has been in a little bit of trouble, unfortunately, as his age has crept up on him. He used to be a pretty good speaker back in the day. In any event, so that's where I come out with Mr. Vance. I hope he changes his tune. I hope he gets off of this sort of stolen valor thing. I think it's disrespectful to Tim Walz's record. 24 years is a pretty good term. And I think we should respect that. And I have heard nothing about his service from anyone that he wasn't a well-respected, hardworking guy and did his job very well. And by the way, he got to the top rank of the enlisted. So that's a challenge. And I tell you, it's not easy to do, and I have a lot of respect for him. I don't necessarily know that much about his policies either. I know he's got some things that I'm not happy with, but overall, I'm going to wait till I get to the facts on these things. I will assess all of the candidates and all of their policies, and then I will make my decision as to who I believe is going to be the best people to lead our country in the next 4 years. And I'm not there yet. We have a lot of work to do here. There's a lot to be decided. So anyway, I just want to get that off my chest, if you will, on the stolen valor. I hate to see these types of battles, and I hate to see them being politicized. We have enough issues with our military folks and the stress and that they're being put under, and the fact that our government doesn't do a very good job of helping them once they come back. I know that personally, and I would rather focus on how we could help military people out and how we could help our first responders and all the other people who put their lives on the line for us every single day. And I would think that we would do a better job of supporting them rather than attack them just because it's politically expedient. So that's kind of my little rant. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have anything to say about it, if you're a military person, I'd like to hear what you have to think about these issues. That's it for today. Remember, if you want to do something with the Guardian Revival, folks, it's going to be in the link below. We'll put this link here. We'll also, I think, put another link to another segment where JD Vance actually made his first attack on Tim Walz, and I just, if you want to watch that as well. But I think I've laid out the 3 or 4 arguments that were made. So thank you very much. Again, subscribe, like, hit the bell, share, and we'll see you again soon. I'm going to be talking about Elon Musk and Donald Trump's Twitter interview next. That's going to be a longer conversation because there's a lot more meat there to talk about. Thank you very much. Have a great day.